Let's talk about a management philosophy that didn't just tweak a few companies. It literally rebuilt a nation's economy and completely redefined global competition. We're diving into the revolutionary world of total quality management.
So, to set the stage, I want you to think about this question. How did post-war Japan, an economy pretty much in ruins, pivot to become an absolute powerhouse in some of the world's toughest industries? I mean, everything from cars to electronics. At the time, nobody thought it was possible.
Well, the answer wasn't some clever new business tactic. It was a complete shift in thinking, a whole philosophy known as Total Quality Management, or TQM for short. And really, it's a story about moving away from just fixing problems to designing systems where those problems can't even happen in the first place.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. We're going to look at the fundamental shift that really sparked this whole revolution, this move away from simply inspecting products to building quality right into the DNA of an organization.
This right here, this captures the core idea perfectly. The old way was all reactive, right? You'd wait till the very end of the production line, find the broken stuff, and just toss it. So incredibly wasteful. TQM just completely flipped the script. The new way is proactive. You design your processes so well that defects, they just don't happen. It's all about building quality in, not trying to inspect it out at the end.
And, this revolution didn't just pop up overnight. The seeds were actually planted way back in the 1920s by a guy named Walter Schuhart, who was the first to use statistics to control quality. But the real game changer? That was in the 1950s, when pioneers like W. Edwards Deming brought these ideas to post-war Japan and, boom, sparked an economic miracle. The impact was so massive that by the 80s, the US was basically playing catch-up, officially coining the term TQM and even creating a national award to push these very same ideas.
And that brings us to the man himself, W. Edwards Deming. Because honestly, to really get TQM, you have to understand his playbook for transforming an entire organization.
So, Deming laid out these 14 points. But this wasn't just a simple to-do list. No, it was a holistic guide for fundamentally changing a company's culture from the very top all the way down. Let's break them down into a few key themes.
All right, theme number 1 is all about leadership. For Deming, a leader's job isn't to bark orders and control everything. It's to set a clear, long-term vision, what he called a constancy of purpose. This means you're creating a culture where defects are just not acceptable, and where managers act more like coaches who empower their teams, not just bosses who give orders.
And this quote, this just nails Deming's core belief. If something goes wrong, don't blame the person, look at the system they're stuck working in. You can have the most talented, motivated person in the world, but they'll always be defeated by a busted process. So fix the process. Okay, theme 2 is all about smashing those internal barriers. Deming knew that a great system needs open and honest communication. And that means driving out fear, right? So people can actually report problems without worrying about getting punished. It means literally tearing down the walls between departments so that design, manufacturing, and sales are all working together, not fighting each other. And it means getting rid of those empty slogans and arbitrary quotas, which just create anxiety and make people game the system instead of actually improving it. And finally, it's about a relentless, never-ending commitment to improvement. This is not a one-and-done project. It is a permanent cultural shift. It means building real, long-term partnerships with your suppliers that are based on quality, not just who's cheapest. It means embedding that Japanese principle of Kaizen, this idea of continuous small improvements into every single thing you do. And it means constantly investing in education for everyone, because a company can only get better as fast as its people are learning.
So that was the philosophy. But you might be wondering, how does a theory from the 1950s really hold up today? Well, as it turns out, TQM's DNA is absolutely everywhere. It's the foundation for what we think of as modern business excellence.
Just think about the big quality frameworks everyone uses today. You've got ISO 9000, which creates a global standard for quality. You have Six Sigma, with its intense focus on data to hunt down and eliminate defects. And of course, Lean, with its obsession with removing waste. Here's the thing. These aren't separate ideas. They are all direct descendants of TQM. They're all built on that same foundation, just using newer tools to chase that same goal of perfection.
And that brings us to today, to the next evolution, something called Quality 4.0. This is what happens when you take those classic TQM principles and you supercharge them with all the cool tech we have now. Things like artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and massive data analytics.
This slide really shows that transformation perfectly. Look, you take the TQM principle of process control. Now it's supercharged with IoT sensors giving you real-time data from the factory floor. The idea of defect prevention is no longer just about good design, it's about AI predicting a failure before it even has a chance to happen. And that commitment to employee training, now it's scalable across the globe with e-learning platforms. The core ideas are the same, but our tools for making them happen have become ridiculously powerful.
So this brings us to the ultimate goal of TQM. Because it was never just about making better products. It was about achieving something much deeper, something Deming called a system of profound knowledge.
Deming saw this system of profound knowledge as like the final boss of management thinking. It means first, appreciating that your company is a complex system, not just a bunch of separate departments. Second, understanding variation, knowing the difference between a real problem and just random statistical noise. Third, it requires a theory of knowledge, basically understanding how we learn and how we improve. And finally, and this is crucial, it requires psychology, understanding what actually motivates people. When a leader can get their head around these four things together, that's when they can truly transform an organization.
And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. It's pretty easy to manage a process, to follow a checklist. But building profound knowledge, that's the real work. And honestly, that's the difference between a company that just survives and one that leads its industry for generations to come.